Hello, today we're looking at macro-aided book editing, and this is Paul Beverley, your friendly macro chef. Silly title really, but what I'm trying to say is that what I want to give you is an exciting recipe for editing a book. But the important thing is this is just my way of doing it. I'm not trying to say that it's the way of doing it, but I hope it'll be useful. Okay, let's get started. So, what's the scenario? Well, let's say we have got a book which consists of 10 chapters and they come in as separate chapter files. So what's my aim? My aim is to give the fastest method of editing. Well, it's just the method I use, as I say, which is quite fast. But at the same time, we want to gain the maximum level of consistency. Okay, so what tools am I going to use? So what have I got? I'm going to be using analysis macros, obviously, a very common tool that a macro chef would use. Dockalize, hyphenalize, various others you might want to use. Another important tool is the multi-file text, which combines a set of files together into one. The file it produces does not contain all of the full formatting, but just the text plus things like bold, italic, and so on to make it easier to look at and see what's there. So let's see an example. So when multi-file text has done its job, you'll end up with a file looking vaguely like this. As I say, the bold and italic is there, but only as a feature, as a font, not as a style. And each file has at the heading there, it has the title of the file. So if we go down from there, we can find the next file and the next file. So we can find where things are. So if you're looking for a particular bit of, if you're looking for sort of textual analysis, then you can see that it's in chapter 3. Okay, so that's your all text file. So obviously, I certainly am going to use Fredit, which is a scripted global find and replace, so I can replace a set of items in the document. I'm going to create a Fredit list for that, and this will be the items that I want changed globally through the whole document. What I'm using here is I'm going to use black for files, and I'm going to use blue for macros, the names of macros, as we're looking at the recipe. Okay, so how does the recipe start? Well, we've got the chapters coming in, 10 chapters. Let's open that up. So we get our multi-file text and we combine all of them together into an all text file. And what we're doing there is that we then want to use things like spelling error lister and different and other analyses, and those will produce information about what's in the document and highlight for us possible inconsistencies in the hyphenation or the spelling of proper nouns, punctuation, and obviously spelling errors. And so from those macros we will get a spelling error list, a hyphenation list, proper noun list, and a dockalize list, and any others that you choose to use. We may also need to use the US-UK count and IS-IZ count if we want to know more accurately about what's in the document. Okay, next step in the recipe is that we've got to look at the brief and find out what's required by the client, and we will create some sort of style sheet and a word list to go with it. So let's look at those two documents, the style sheet and the Fredit list. First of all, the style sheet. This is just how I do it. Obviously, I say this is my recipe, but if it helps, then there's a dummy style sheet of mine that is in my book. You can use that and cannibalize it. So looking at various aspects of making the document consistent, different conventions and so on, and this is from a job, so it's actually got a populated word list of all the special words. So there's special words, there's conventions like is benefited and fitting with 2 T's or 1, cooperate and cooperation, and then all the hyphenations that I've decided for this particular job, whether they're all hyphenated or some or whatever. So that's my style sheet, and then the Fredit list that I've generated. So here we go, a Fredit list. Okay, so this particular job I was doing, it's got some footnotes in it, and so I wanted Fredit to do the find and replace in the footnotes, and I wanted tracking on. That doesn't actually switch tracking on, but it presents you with a warning when you try to run Fredit if you have not put the tracking on. One of the things that Fredit can do is to run individual macros. So at the beginning of this job, when I run Fredit, then I want it to set the language to US, and I want to run the auto list off macro, which will turn the automatic lists into actual, whatever they are, bullets or numbers or letters, and so we don't get those changing during the course of the editing. Then there are some punctuation changes I want making. This one, blue means it's something I've actually changed. This one is pink, means that I'm not actually changing it, I'm just highlighting the text. So that particular one will highlight repetitions of a word, so the, that, whatever. Then we've got some sort of standard things that I put in every list. If I know it's a US document, I'll just put those ones in. And then actually from hyphenalize, these have been pulled in from the hyphenation list as things I want changing, and they're all struck through, which is saying that I'm not actually going to track those changes, just make the changes and color them in blue so that I know they have been changed. Those proper nounalize changes, those I do want tracked because I quite like the client to know that I'd spotted these aberrant spellings in the text. And then the sort of straightforward spelling errors, those are I know those occur from the spelling error list. I know those occur somewhere in the document, and so I put those in my Fredit list, so when it gets to the chapter that has got those in, then those changes will be made. One or two other changes that I wanted making there, and then the final thing I do is run this paragraph end checker, which is a macro I love, which when it finds a paragraph that does not have a punctuation mark on the end, then it highlights the very last character in the paragraph in green to make it stand out, so that I don't miss the fact while I'm busy with the paragraph that actually that paragraph doesn't have a full stop or whatever at the end. So that's my Fredit list. So in actually making up that Fredit list, I had decisions to make. I had to decide what needed changing, and this is sort of general, I have to decide for this job what things need changing, and how I'm going to change them. Am I going to change them globally or topically? In other words, am I going to change them as I read, or are they things that I can change in the whole document? So if they are definitely going to need changing in the whole document, then that's okay. I can change them globally, and I would tend, for some of those, I tend to have no tracking and no colouring. So 2 spaces into 1 space might be an example of that. But then things that I think I'm going to need, things that I think are okay to need to change globally, then I would definitely put either tracking or colouring on, or maybe highlighting, but I prefer colouring, because I need to be alerted while I'm reading that something has been changed. And then topically, obviously, it depends on the context, and I would edit with tracking on. But as I mentioned in that Fredit list there are some things that I use in the global changes list, which are not actually changes. The only thing they change is to put a highlighting onto, or rather a colouring, I prefer. They colour certain things that if I've decided, well, I need to be sure I check this, so I can add that to my Fredit list as something which is going to be coloured but not changed, so that while I'm working topically, while I'm editing word by word, line by line, I will be alerted and can check those things out. Okay, well, I've already shown you the sample Fredit sheet. Okay, so sorry, it was just a reminder again that I'm going to use black for files and blue for the macros I'm using. So we've got the Fredit list ready, and what we do is we load chapter 1, and I would, just the way I work, I then save it as chapter 1 PB, and then with an index number, and as I go through I'm going to save it more than once with that index number increased. So what I do first is to do a trial run on that of Fredit. So I will run Fredit on that file, and I'll look through it and try to see, is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. And so I might spot things when I'm looking through that. Ooh, no, that's not a good idea. I made a global change of something, and it wasn't very good. So if something obvious is not right in that, while I'm scanning it, then I can adjust the Fredit list. So I would close that PB01 file and reopen it. So in other words, it's back just to a copy of CH1. So I'd reopen the PB1 file, and having made the changes to the Fredit list, then I would run Fredit again. Does that look all right? Yeah, okay, fine. Now we can get started. I would save it as PB02, and I'm ready to edit chapter 1. So I work on chapter 1, and as I said, as I go along, I might save indexed copies of the file. And also, as I'm going along, as I'm actually reading the sentences, I may see things in chapter 1 that I realise, seeing it in detail, they're not a good idea, so I can take them out of the Fredit list, or maybe use a wildcard or something just to adjust the change. But then also, as I'm reading, I may see things that are that can be added to the Fredit list because the author uses a particular phrase or word or something, and then I might decide that has to be that could be changed globally, because as I gain familiarity with the book, I can see which things it is safe to change globally and which not to change globally. So I get on and I edit chapter 2. I load up chapter 2, save it, run Fredit, and then carry on and edit that one. And each time I do another chapter, I might have added or subtracted from the Fredit list, and so as I go through, I'm getting a more effective set of global changes that change more things before I start reading, so there's less to worry about as I'm reading, and I can concentrate more on what's going on in the document. Okay, so I get to chapter 4, and to give you another technique that I use, suppose I'm reading chapter 4 and I think, oh, hang on a minute, I've seen this expression before, or oh, hang on, was this hyphenated before? Which is, sort of, how did I deal with this expression or whatever last time? But the problem is, I might not know which chapter it was in order to go back and check what I'd done. So what I do, sort of every now and then, is to run multi-file text again, and run it on, I'm doing chapter 4, so I run it on chapters 1, 2 and 3 and produce what I call all text new. So that file is the edited text of chapters 1 to 3. So I can look at this expression or whatever it was that I wanted to check. I can look in the all text new file, and again, because of those file names being in there with the square brackets, I can find out which chapter that thing was in if I need to know. And for that I often use find same place. So I will select the expression in my document in chapter 4, and I'll run find same place, and that will go and it will find that item in the all text new file. Okay, right, so I go through to all my 10 chapters, and then at the very end I will run a multi-file text again to produce like a final version of all the new text of all the chapters. So I'm now at the stage where I'm wanting to check the document the edited document as a whole to make sure that there aren't things that I've added. So I'm checking for added inconsistency. In other words, I may have inadvertently added spelling errors, or I may have changed my mind on the hyphenation partway through or something. Hopefully not, but if I do, if I have done, then I can run these tests, which will allow me to see what spelling errors and missed hyphens and so on, or inconsistent punctuation. Okay, so hopefully the result of working like this is that I'll end up with a faster edit. I've done the job more quickly, and for a fixed fee job, then that means a higher earning rate. Hopefully I will have got more consistency by using all these macros, and that will give me more credit in the eyes of the client, and then hopefully that should give me more repeat business. So that's it for today. If you've got any feedback or questions, do get in touch on my email address there. Okay, thanks for watching.